बुला लो उनको, बसुती जी को. ये वाला ladies and gentlemen, Honorable Minister is on his way. So what we are doing in a backup plan is that we are proceeding with the policy conversation session where we are talking about harmonization and cooperation and how to build that thing into the IMEC story. So we have with us Ambassador Sudhir T. Devare, Chairman Research Advisory Council and former Director General Indian Council for World Affairs. Ms. Anita Prakash, Director for Partnership Economic Research Institute for ASEAN and East Asia, ERIA, Jakarta. Shri Ghanshyam Prasad, Chairperson, CEA, that is Central Electricity Authority. Pritam Banerjee is on his way. He was stuck in traffic. He had just called us. So he'll be joining sooner. And Dr. Sanjeev Ranjan, former Secretary, Ports, Shipping and Waterways. He'll be moderating this session this evening. Mr. T.K. Ramachandran had to join us, but he was away with the External Affairs Minister. He couldn't join us. So we are still trying whether if he can join us through the video link. So, ladies and gentlemen, I reintroduce Ambassador Sudhir T. Devare, Chairman Research Advisory Council. He's there with us. He's former Director General, Indian Council for World Affairs. Shri Ghanshyam Prasad, Chairperson CEA, that is Central Electricity Authority, Government of India. Ms. Anita Prakash, she is Director for Partnership Economic Research Institute for ASEAN and East Asia, Jakarta, ERIA, Jakarta. And soon we will be joined by Shri Pritam Banerjee. He is head of Center for WTO Studies at IIFT. And Mr. Sanjeev Ranjan, he is former Secretary, Ports, Shipping and Waterways. Mr. Ranjan, mic is yours.
A very good evening to everyone, and let me welcome you to this fireside talk on policy harmonization and regulatory cooperation amongst the IMEC countries. During the course of the day, we have had discussions about building infrastructure. But and we also realize that it's equally important to build systems. Systems for connectivity, systems for trade, systems for making finance available, systems of governance. and for building systems which are able to operate seamlessly across various modes, the maritime, the port, the rail, across various borders. There are many countries going to be involved. So the challenge is that the systems that we are able to use for IMEC should be interoperable, should be able to talk to each other seamlessly, so that containers or whatever moves seamlessly without any delay anywhere. It should be real-time operation, like in a computer network, you have data packets which get switched real-time without any delay. And it is this interoperability that is going to make IMEC different from the other connectivity regimes that we have. And it is critical for IMEC in particular because it's multimodal and there's switching going to be involved. And if there are delays at any point, the attractiveness of the whole exercise to that extent will be compromised. And therefore, to be able to harmonize the policy regimes, to be able to harmonize the regulatory regimes is critical. When it comes to logistics and movement, and particularly for IMEC, we are talking of multimodal, maritime on the eastern front, then the rail, then the maritime. The multimodal connectivity becomes critical. And when you move things across borders, you have regulatory regimes of customs, of immigration, you have quality control issues, you have sanitary standards which have to be looked at. So all these things come into play. And in case there's a gap in any of them, where country standards don't match, where customs holds up anything for a certain time, we have a challenge. And therefore, there's a need to harmonize all this. And today we have a distinguished set of panelists with me. Diplomats, regulators, people experienced in multilateral institutions, so that we're able to look at the challenges and be able to work out a realistic kind of action plan to be able to harmonize the various regulations that we have and how do we go about doing it. We have with us Ambassador Sudhir Devare, who is the chairman of the Research Advisory Council of RIS and also the former Director General of the Indian Council of World Affairs. His insights is going to be of great value. He realized the importance of IMEC and he heads the Society of Indian Ocean Studies and got the society started on this thing some time back, and now the thing is taking a larger shape. We have Madam Anita Prakash with us, Director for Partnership at the Economic Research Institute of ASEAN in East Asia at Jakarta. Madam has been working extensively in infrastructure and multilateral frameworks in Asia, particularly ASEAN, and how to make these things work. The experience which she brings on the table would be of great value in shaping the kind of format we decide for the ASEAN. I understand that we have others joining us, but till then I suppose we continue with our delegates here, which means that in case others join, we'll have to cut short on the time. I find we have about 18 odd minutes. So we can possibly get started with Professor Devare first. And the challenges, as I mentioned, is to get these things harmonized. And therefore, the need is to find what are the critical gaps, critical areas which need harmonization for smooth trade to happen, for smooth investment to happen, for smooth connectivity to happen. That is one big challenge that we got to identify. Then the other call we need to take is that whether we, for investment, a private sector investor, he has the option of, or all of us have the option of either going with the current kind of standards that we have and harmonize them to make them interoperable. The other possibility is to have a unified regulation for trade, for data infrastructure across all the IMEC countries. So both have their own pluses and minuses. So which approach should we take? Are the two broad questions which I throw open to the panelists. And for Professor Devare in particular, given his diplomatic and the multilateral background which he brings to the table, given the existing experiences that we have in ASEAN, EU, we have been trying to do the international North-South corridor, what kind of a governance mechanism should we have for IMEC? So as to, which supports this kind of a cooperation which is absolutely critical for IMEC to happen. So over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Well, I must say that it's a very opportune time that the RIS and other organizers are holding this IMEC conclave. There is already a buzz about this issue in India, and the support or the backing that the IMEC is receiving from world leaders, countries which are members of this IMEC, I think is also very, very useful. Well, I think IMEC is a very ambitious project. It has multiplicity of countries, multiplicity of projects, and there is also multiplicity of standards. And therefore, harmonizing and regulating these divergent standards, I think, is a very urgent task. And in fact, I would say this is the nut and bolt kind of situation for the implementation of IMEC. Because as was just now mentioned by Dr. Ranjan, there are so many issues involved in this. This is an issue of the customs regulations, trade facilitation, maritime and port regulations, environmental standards. There are a host of issues. And we are, of course, talking in macro terms about IMEC and all that. But unless all these matters are addressed, then otherwise this whole project will not really take off. And I think from that point of view, I feel that while the preparations for IMEC are going on, it is in fact important that we start negotiating among the countries on these matters. And given the political will that is expressed by leaders at the highest level for IMEC in the last few months also, I think such negotiations can start. As of now, I think only India and UAE have made some progress on certain things. France and Italy have appointed Sherpas for this project. Beyond that, I don't know whether anything has been done in positive terms about harmonizing standards. So whether the standards should be uniform, as the question was just now posed, or we should live with this multiplicity of the standards and still work out a kind of a common governance. That is a very important question. I think as progress continues on this IMEC project, things may get more and more clear. But I don't know whether we can really think in terms of common standards, because countries which are members of the IMEC do not follow uniform standards. They have different political systems, they are different from different continents, and at the moment we really do not know whether there will be clarity in terms of their working together on this project. Perhaps I think a further re-expression of the political will be required, and for starting these negotiations, we need a further impetus. I think like the one we had in G20 in 23, similar, I think, restatement of the importance of harmonizing the standards will be required. And on that, I think we can really consider further progress of IMEC.
Thank you, sir. The insights that you gave, I suppose, would help decide on the future course that we take. Before I come to Dr. Pritam Chatterjee and allow him to catch his breath, who just joined in, who's the head of the WTO Center at the IIFT. He was with the ADB and had been working on connectivity issues. I know him from before. But before I come to you, Mr. Banerjee, I would request Madam to please come in and share our thoughts. Now that Madam Anita Prakash has been working extensively in ASEAN and the ASEAN model of connectivity the Mekong Delta and the other initiatives that you have had, some of them have been great success stories. Now, would the ASEAN model, the EU model, or we have had challenges in other models that we have, what is the way forward which the IMEC can possibly think of adopting?
Thank you so much, Sanjeev. The thing about IMEC first is that the philosophy and therefore the guiding principles of IMEC have already been put in place, which is basically democracy, peace, prosperity, and our Prime Minister came closest when it came to establishing the principles of convergence when he said in the India-ASEAN summit, just a day prior to the signing of IMEC, was that it was his vision to see Southeast Asia, India, West Asia, and Europe connected via a multimodal connectivity program, which will look into logistics, green energy, clean energy, supply chains, infrastructure, among other things. So therefore, Southeast Asia technically is not a part of IMEC, but learning from the Southeast Asia way of establishing connectivity across divergent economies with different levels of development. And here I don't necessarily mean development in terms of income, but development in terms of sectoral development, so to speak. Some are stronger on infrastructure, the others are stronger on, let's say, commodities, and then you have manufacturing. So if we have to bring the conversation or action on convergence within IMEC, then as Ambassador Devare said, we have different economies participating in this connectivity program. So to keep these divergences in mind, we look at the Southeast Asian example. So for trade, you will require different format of convergence or harmonization. Then similarly for infrastructure, as in case of Southeast Asia, they have what is called the ASEAN single window, inherent in which is the national single window, which sort of brings along the connectivity infrastructure like ports into one seamless program of connectivity with similar custom procedures and similar levels of, comparable levels of dwelling time, dwelling operations, etc. And the beauty of this, this convergence program is that countries from outside ASEAN, that is to say ASEAN dialogue partners, are willing to become a partner in the ASEAN single window program. Now for trade and infrastructure also, they have a similarly pragmatic approach towards regulatory convergence. We have, Pritam and I recently worked on similar themes in the, when we were working together on the ASEAN-India FTA review. And this issue struck us time and again, and we saw that when similarities and dissimilarities occur at the same time, how do you bring out the common minimum program among different partners? And that is why Southeast Asia takes a sectoral approach to regulatory convergence, given that capacities are different in the participating countries. And pharmaceutical is where they have a framework, but other industries, they have guidelines. But it is the community process, and that is why I need to emphasize that IMEC has to have a community level of ambitions, or principles at least, if not ambition, so to be able to work under established guidelines, which are, of course, somehow decided under a consensus mode, and that, of course, comes out from what Ambassador Devare said, that a governance mechanism, therefore, needs to precede all the conversation on preparing towards convergence or harmonization, as Sanjeev just mentioned. I'll stop here, if I may.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you for the insights. Now I'd request Dr. Pritam Banerjee, given his experience and the fact that the WTO has a trade facilitation agreement and a lot of work has been done. countries have had committees to bring about ease of doing business, and many of these harmonization within the country itself. For example, we have the Gati Shakti framework, we have the national logistics policy. A lot of these things are happening. So given your experience, what is the way forward as far as IMEC is concerned?
Thank you, and first apologies for being late, and thanks to the organizers for having me. Quickly, keep things simple. I think it's not such a complicated animal to deal with. Let me explain why that is. And I'm looking at it from a purely trade and logistics perspective. What IMEC basically represents is a multimodal chain of logistics infrastructure, which is largely sea rail, sea road on both sides. You go from India or from East Africa to the Emirates. From Emirates, you cross the Arab Peninsula to the other side, to the Mediterranean Sea. There's a port there, Haifa, and from there you go to Europe, again by sea, and you connect to rail or road. So that's the network you're looking at. Thankfully, for all of these things, there are international organizations which have standards. So you have IMO, which defines standards for maritime equipment, whether you're carrying dry bulk or liquid bulk or containers. You have, similarly, standards for port operations. These are all global. So most of the things, they exist already. They already adhere to. This has been happening for a very long time. That's why you have efficient, more or less efficient transshipment movement on the transport equipment infrastructure of things. The challenge, of course, is in the customs part of it, as was rightly mentioned. But even there, we have examples to draw from. For example, with the TIR convention, which is a multimodal framework which allows containers to move across countries using both rail and road. There are principles that could be used. We've also tried to do similar things with the International North-South Corridor, or the INSTC, where pilot runs have happened, initiated largely by the Indian side, where you have a shipment that has gone by sea from India to the port of the port of Chabahar and the port of Bandar Abbas in 2 occasions, and from there they have gone overland to Central Asia. So the principles for convergence already exist. The WCO, for example, the World Customs Organization, has guidance and best practices for transshipment procedures, etc. So none of this should be complicated if there is a political will. What I'm trying to say is the standards for convergence and harmonization already exist. More than one option exists. It's up to the countries to pick them, and I think there some amount of leadership will be required. And there I come to the most important point, which is the only kind of large-scale operational multimodal kind of a transport corridor that we have working today. It is the China-Europe corridor, which connects China to Europe by rail, and it is successful. And when I was in my former avatar in Deutsche Post DHL, when I was in industry, DHL was the first company which started running those trains, and it's become a very, very successful business. How did that happen? How did the success come about? It came about because China was able to convince all other countries in the route, Kazakhstan, Russian Federation, everybody, to follow a certain set of rules. I mean, they had the same situation. They had a set of common agreed rules, options to pick from. All that had to be done was to find a way to make everybody accept what the common rules are. Now the question remains, in the case of IMEC, will India, UAE, and maybe the US together, or a few other countries, be able to do the same thing? One hopes so, because it provides a great opportunity for India, especially to find a much more viable route that will add a lot of resilience to its supply chains. I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pritam, for that encouraging kind of insight of existing frameworks already existing for many of these things. For example, as he mentioned, the IMO has standards which makes the maritime operations happen worldwide. It's evolving. Customs have their own, the custom union, etc., etc. But one thing which remains is that the IMO being a multimodal kind of operation, which involves road, rail, and maritime, to have interoperable standards, there are challenges in some of these areas. To have documents which work across all these modes, Now it's called to be digitized, so the digital systems have to work across, and therefore the need to integrate and make them interoperable. For example, India has already taken the initiative. We have the Honorable Minister who's going to be coming in next. The shipping side has made strides. We have had the Maitri, which with the UAE, which is already happening, the maritime portal, etc., the ULIP, etc., which we have for the national logistic policy and the Gati Shakti framework. So those things are already happening to fill the gap. So the need is to have a governance model, as was suggested, learn from ASEAN and others, use the existing frameworks that we have. Where gaps exist, have a proper governance framework to be able to address that. So that is the kind of insights we got from this session. And thank you all. We are bang on time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. May I request Jagjit Sareen to come forward to help us felicitate the wonderful speakers. Ambassador Sudhir T. Devare, ladies and gentlemen, Chairman, Research Advisory Council and former Director General, ICWA. Ms. Anita Prakash, Director for Partnership, Economic Research Institute, ASEAN and East Asia. Dr. Pritam Banerjee, Head Center for WTO Studies. And obviously, Dr. Sanjeev Ranjan, former Secretary, Ministry of Ports, Shipping and Waterways. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Please give the speakers some applause. They have given us really good knowledge and understanding.